Welcome into Saints Now. I'm your host, Will Scott, breaking down the latest Saints rumors. And on this show, we're going to get into some running back trade targets for the Saints. Darrell Williams, we thought he was going to be another LSU Tiger coming to town. Instead, he's going to the Arizona Cardinals. So now we can kind of dive into some other options for the Saints because they might need another running back, right? Alvin Kamara might be suspended. He's facing a situation where he might get suspended up to 6 games for that alleged battery back on Pro Bowl weekend in Las Vegas. Still a couple intriguing names left in free agency, but perhaps the best route for the Saints, trading for a running back. They have nearly $10 million left in cap space. And looking at the current depth chart, right? Kamara's one of the best running backs in the league, but the problem is you might be without him for several games this year. Mark Ingram is a solid backup, but he's getting older. I don't know if he's someone you want to rely on to be an RB1 for 4 to 6 games. Tony Jones Jr. is right there. Abram Smith, a name who might make the roster, an undrafted free agent that's really impressed thus far. And before we get into those trade targets, go down, hit that big red sub button. If you love the Saints, if you're a part of Who Dat Nation, I know my guy Trace is a Who Dat.
Absolutely, guys. Like you see right here on the screen, 504 new subscribers last week, and hate to brag and hate to talk bad about the guys in the office over here, but that's the best in the entire company over the last week. So let's keep the momentum going, guys. Let's get to 7K like on this video. Why not?
Absolutely. Let's keep it going here on Saints Now. Try to be the most subscribed to channel at Chat Sports once again this week. Let's get into these running back trade targets now. We're going to talk about 5 names on today's show, guys that might make sense for Miami, or I should say for New Orleans to go out and get. Talking about Miami, Myles Gaskin, a guy that you might be able to go out and get, a running back for the Dolphins. Now, he was the Dolphins' RB1 last season, but because the Dolphins have signed Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and Sony Michel in free agency, the Dolphins really don't need him anymore. He's the 4th string running back on the Dolphins right now. And look, when you look at yards per carry last season, it wasn't good, right? 3.5 yards per carry. But may I remind you that the Dolphins had the worst offensive line in the league last year. This guy really didn't have much of a chance to break out. There's still some potential, I think, with Myles Gaskin. Can he be an RB1? Probably not, but he's a solid backup and a guy that might make some sense if you want to add some depth. 301 carries in his career, 1,300 career rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and he was mentioned on Dolphins Today here at Chat Sports as a potential cut or trade candidate for the Dolphins. He's still showing up. He's still shown out in Dolphins OTAs, but maybe the Dolphins might look to trade him. They get rid of him. They save over $2.5 million in cap space. So let me ask y'all, should the Saints trade for Myles Gaskin? Type T for trade or type P for pass? Go down in the comments section and let me know if the Saints should make a deal with the Dolphins. Let's stick with some running backs in the AFC East, and let's talk about Devin Singletary now, a running back out of Buffalo. And Singletary is an interesting name because you look at what he's done in Buffalo. He's been extremely impressive. He was the Bills' primary running back last season, 7 touchdowns, 870 yards. But they have Zach Moss, a young guy that they really have a lot of confidence in, and they just drafted James Cook. And if you've been reading about the Bills' running back situation lately, a lot of people think James Cook's going to come in there and be the primary running back in year 1. A lot of people very high on James Cook in the Buffalo organization. Does that make Devin Singletary a potential trade target? I think so, and I think it might make some sense to go get him. He's as quality as a backup running back you're going to find, someone that can fill that void if Kamara gets suspended and do it well. And we mentioned that Mark Ingram's getting old, right? He's aging. You know, you brought him back. You traded with the Houston Texans last season to bring him back. But I don't know if I feel comfortable with Mark Ingram being the primary back if Kamara gets suspended. I still think you need to add some depth at that position. Before we get into the rest of the trade targets, who was the quarterback when you joined the Houdat Nation? Go down in the comments section. Let me know. Is it Drew Brees? Or are we going beyond Drew Brees? Go down and let me know who was the quarterback for the Saints when you became a Saints fan. Trade target number 3, Saquon Barkley. Pretty big name, and he's someone that's been in some NFL trade rumors this offseason. Hasn't been able to stay on the field, though, Trace. That's why I'm a little bit iffy about trading for him. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, see, I think the first thing that we have to acknowledge is that Saquon Barkley is definitely a talented player. You know, he's a talented running back. He has a really great speed. He has really great burst, and he's, you know, really shifty at the end of the day. But, you know, like you said, he has trouble staying on the field, man. So it's one of those things that, yeah, you could potentially, you know, have this big blockbuster trade and get a young running back and definitely have a running back for the future. You know, maybe Alvin Kamara's stuff turns into long term, and you're like, whatever. I got a Saquon Barkley too. I don't need anything else.
But is he interested in being an RB2? I don't think so.
Yeah, you bring up a good point as well, because I was going to mention, like, I don't know if he'd want to serve that role behind Alvin Kamara. You know, like you said, and I'm going to pull up some of these graphics. And
imagine if, like, Kamara gets suspended 6 games or something, and Saquon just explodes. Yeah. Then what? You're going to have to be splitting the carries.
Exactly. And I think that if we look at it and we get numbers similar to the 2018 season where, you know, 1,300 yards, an average of 5 yards a carry, 15 touchdowns, I mean, that's not terrible. And, you know, he does bring good pass catch ability. You know, 91 catches in 2018, 100 almost catches, or almost 100 catches in 2019 through 2021. But the only thing is those averages the average dropped, and I'm a big nut over like that average number because, you know, at the end of the day, he's not getting as many yards as, you know, per touch and stuff. And
so that's the stat that stands out.
Yeah, so I think that at the end of the day, the best ability is availability, and that's why I think that we should just avoid a Saquon Barkley trade. Yeah, he's a great and talented player, but just not really the fit that we have and not really the fit that we need right now, in my personal opinion.
I don't think it makes sense for either side, right? When you're looking at the New York Giants right now, this is a really big year for that new coaching staff, for Daniel Jones. You're going to be taking away Daniel Jones, a weapon of his, in Saquon Barkley. And sure, yeah, he hasn't been able to stay on the field, but when he's on the field, he's a pretty quality back. I think we saw in his rookie season when he won Rookie of the Year what he's capable of if he can stay fully healthy for a complete season. So that being said, I don't think it makes sense for the Giants to trade him. And if you're the Saints, you're trying to trade for a running back to add depth, for someone to fill the void of Kamara and then be RB2 when Kamara comes back. So let me ask y'all, though, is Saquon Barkley worth the risk here for the Saints? Type Y for yes or type in for no down in the comments section. Is it worth trading for Saquon Barkley? Maybe a guy it is worth trading for is Kenyan Drake. And, you know, Drake is an interesting player here because he really broke out with Arizona in 2020. Obviously spent the first couple seasons of his career with Miami. He had 955 yards for Arizona in 2020, but last season, just 254 yards for the Raiders. Here's career stats, and career stats fairly impressive. Nearly 30 touchdowns, nearly 3,400 yards, 759 carries, 4.5 yards per carry. So Kenyan Drake, you know, he's a second running back right now behind Josh Jacobs, and the Raiders' running back situation is very interesting. It feels like their top 2 running backs are both on the trade block here. So we'll see what happens with Kenyan Drake. I think he's someone that the Raiders might look to move here in the coming weeks. I think it makes some sense to bring him to New Orleans after not having that big of a role in the Raiders' offense last season. Maybe a fresh start in New Orleans is what he needs. Want to give some shout-outs here to our commenters. James Hatley, over 100 comments on a video, 120 total. Peely Plush, 105 comments. Pelicans, 103. Vinazur, 103. And then Tristan DeShark. All of these guys over 100 comments. Also want to give a shout-out to Randall Baker and James Seppi as well. Over 100 comments for them as well. Appreciate you guys always in the comments section here on Saints Now. And then our fifth and final trade target, Ernest Johnson. And, kind of similar to Kenyan Drake, someone it's been good but just didn't have a huge role in their offense last season. And Johnson, someone that's kind of RB3 in Cleveland. Here's what he's done in his career: 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. I really like him. I mean, every time I watch this guy, I'm like, this guy needs more minutes. But then you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt right in front of him. The Browns running back room is absolutely loaded, one of the best in the league. So maybe it makes some sense for them to try to trade Johnson because they don't really need him. And if Kamara gets suspended, the Saints absolutely need him. I think out of the 5 names that we have discussed here, Johnson makes the most sense because the Cleveland Browns might be open to trading him for maybe a mid to late round pick. And Johnson, yeah, he's been a third running back in Cleveland. He's not your typical third string running back. He's really good, and I think as a power back would really fill the Kamara void well if Alvin gets suspended. Name a running back you want the Saints to trade for. Go down in the comments section and let me know. Doesn't have to be one of the five names we've talked about. I'm sure some of y'all might say Christian McCaffrey, but the Panthers I don't think are going to be looking to shop him. Even with McCaffrey, they'll probably go 0-17 this year. Thanks for watching, Saints Now. It's been Will Scott and Trace Girouard. Talk to you again soon. Who Dat Nation. Appreciate you guys.